Have you ever stopped to think about how your money situation compares to everyone else's? I mean, things like how much you've saved for retirement, how much you make in a year, or even how much you spend month to month. When you actually look at these numbers side by side with national averages, it can give you a much clearer picture of where you stand financially. You might find out you're doing better than you thought, or you might be shocked by what you see. Either way, some of these stats are pretty eye opening. My name is Jake, and I spend my time helping regular people understand money, personal finance, and investing in a simple, practical way. If you want to improve your financial future and make smarter decisions with your money, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. And if this video helps you out, hitting the like button really supports the channel. Now, think about this for a second. When you clock in for work, do you believe you're earning more or less than the typical worker? According to data from the U.S. Department of Labor Statistics, the median full time worker earns about $1,041 per week, which works out to roughly $52,000 per year. If you break that down, assuming a standard 40-hour work week, that comes out to about $26 an hour before taxes. It's important to point out that this number represents individual income, not household income. Household income includes the combined earnings of everyone living under one roof, like a spouse or other working family members. When it comes to retirement savings, the Federal Reserve reports that the median amount saved across all adults is around $65,000. That figure includes people of all ages, but it only counts individuals who actually have retirement accounts, which is worth noting. In fact, nearly 1 out of every 4 Americans doesn't have a retirement account at all. If someone were to retire with just $65,000 saved and followed the commonly used 4% withdrawal rule, that money would only generate about $2,600 per year in retirement income. For younger adults, the numbers are even smaller. People aged 25 and under have a median retirement balance of just $1,786. Those between 25 and 34 years old have a median balance a little over $14,000. On the other end of the spectrum, adults aged 65 and older have a median retirement balance close to $88,000. These numbers are concerning when you consider that most households will likely need $500,000 or more, on top of other income sources, to retire comfortably. The good news is that even saving and investing a small portion of each paycheck on a consistent basis can put you well ahead of the average person in your age group over time. According to the Social Security Administration, the average monthly Social Security benefit is about $1,550. A lot of Americans depend entirely on Social Security once they retire, but for many people, that amount alone just isn't enough to live on. In cases where there's little or no retirement savings, Social Security often has to be supplemented with income from a job. It's also important to remember that $1,550 is only the average. People who earned lower wages throughout their working years will likely receive even less. Some people plan for retirement as if Social Security won't exist at all, and they simply treat it as a bonus if it does. On top of that, the amount you receive depends on the age you decide to start collecting benefits. Most people can get a personalized estimate by checking their earnings history on the Social Security Administration's website. When it comes to spending, the average household spends about $5,577 per month, according to the U.S. Department of Labor Statistics. Over a full year, that adds up to roughly $67,000 in expenses. That means a household needs to bring home at least that much annually just to cover basic living costs. The spending includes big ticket items like housing, transportation, and food, which usually take up the largest portion of the budget. To break it down further, the typical household spends about $1,885 per month on housing, which accounts for roughly 34% of total expenses. Food costs average around $691 per month, while transportation comes in at about $913 per month. Credit scores also play a major role in your financial life. Scores range from 300 on the low end to 850 on the high end. And surprisingly, the average FICO score sits around 715, according to Experian. Even though some people say credit scores don't matter, having a solid score can make a big difference. Anytime you use debt, your credit score becomes important. It affects the interest rate you'll get on a mortgage, the terms of a car loan, and even access to other types of low interest borrowing. The good news is that maintaining a decent credit score isn't complicated. The biggest factor is simply paying your bills on time. Experian explains that payment history has the largest impact on your score, followed by how much of your available credit you're using, the length of your credit history, the mix of credit accounts you have, and how often you apply for new credit. According to WalletHub, the average household carries about $9,260 in credit card debt, which is often considered one of the worst types of debt. One major issue with credit card debt is the sky high interest rates attached to it. Paying 15%, 20%, or even 25% interest makes it nearly impossible to outpace that cost through investing. In many cases, it completely wipes out any gains you might be making in the stock market or through retirement contributions. On top of that, credit cards tend to encourage unnecessary spending. A lot of that debt likely comes from impulse purchases, things like clothes, electronics, small gadgets, and random online orders. Most of these items lose value quickly and don't provide much lasting benefit. The simplest solution is to pay off your balance in full every single month. If you can't afford something outright, don't buy it, or stick to using a debit card instead. Another smart habit is tracking your net worth so you can clearly see your progress over time. Net worth is one of the best ways to measure your overall financial health and spot areas that need improvement. You calculate net worth by adding up everything you own, like your home, vehicles, investments, and retirement accounts, and then subtracting everything you owe, such as mortgages and other debts. According to the Federal Reserve, the median household net worth in the United States is around $122,000. For households under age 35, that number drops to less than $14,000. For ages 35 to 44, the median net worth is about $91,000. It increases to $168,000 for those aged 45 to 54, $212,000 for ages 55 to 64, and roughly $266,000 for households between 65 and 74. When you look at the numbers, these average net worth figures really aren't that hard to beat if you earn a decent income and stay disciplined with your money. How much the average person saves tends to change from year to year, mostly depending on things like the overall economy and personal circumstances. Data from the U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis shows that the typical savings rate sits around 6%, meaning most people save only about 6% of their take-home pay. That savings usually isn't going straight toward retirement either. It often gets set aside for big life expenses like buying a house, remodeling a home, replacing a car, paying for college, building a retirement fund, or covering an unexpected emergency. Once those short and midterm goals are funded, there usually isn't much left over to dedicate to long-term retirement investing. To put that into perspective, the average down payment on a home is around $62,000. A typical kitchen remodel costs roughly $26,000, and the average price of a new car is now north of $47,000. Most financial experts recommend saving at least 10% to 15% of your income strictly for retirement, and even more if you want the option to retire early. On top of that, you still need to save for all the other things you want to do in life. Nearly everyone likes the idea of retiring early so they're not spending most of their waking hours at work. Still, according to Ramsey Solutions, the average retirement age in the US is about 61, even though most people can't collect their full Social Security benefits until age 67. To add some context, the Social Security Administration estimates that someone who reaches age 65 will likely live another 19 to 21 and a half years. Retiring in your early 60s usually means you've already spent close to 40 years in the workforce. If you started investing early, that's plenty of time for compound interest to work in your favor. But the real question is whether retiring at 61 gives you enough healthy years left to actually enjoy life. At that age, there's a good chance you're still mobile and in decent health, but how many more years will you realistically be able to enjoy your hobbies at a high level? It's not always easy to get an accurate sense of where you stand financially. A lot of the time, it feels like you're falling behind, barely moving forward, and nowhere near where you think you should be. That's why looking at real financial data about the average person can be so eye-opening. These numbers can help you better understand your own financial situation, and you might even realize you're doing better than you thought. That kind of perspective can give you the motivation to stay consistent and keep pushing forward.